Morning folks, welcome back. Today is April 9th, 2025, and we are expecting some pretty significant rain in the next 12, 16, 18 hours. And I decided to do an impromptu walk around the garden with you, show you some of the fun stuff that's going on, and maybe some of the not so fun stuff, because things are going well overall, but I've had some challenges here and there that I've had to work through. And I'm just going to pick and choose a few things to go through right now to show you. And we're going to start with compost. Compost has been going really well. The system that I put in place, the 4-bay, has been working terrifically. 5 days ago, I got bay 1 refilled over 2 days, and every day for the last 3 days, I've added more material as it continues to kind of weigh itself down. And I think I'm going to let it sit until mid-April, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a final addition of a boatload of organic matter to really top it off, and then let it sit for the next 2 weeks until the end of the month when we do the full rotation over. But the coolest thing about bay 1 that I've been excited about has been we've got almost 150 degrees. That's 148 it looks like. I did have new material to throw in here because I broke out my push mower and I hit a little patch that I like to keep cleared around the chicken run. And yeah, so that was green material I had to add in, and that I think is probably giving it a bit of an assist. So that plus the higher temperatures and the general humidity, we've got some good activity going on in this one. So this is going to be a pretty well broken up pile. I'm excited to see this one go through the system. And as for the garden itself, I've been taking tiny little harvests as things came up. One thing that didn't go so well is my baby bok choy. It came in a pack of a variety pack of braising greens mix is what it's called, and everything else does fine. That baby bok choy and bok choy, when I grow it in the spring, for some reason is very temperamental and bolts really aggressively. So I had 8 plants that were probably about 4 inches tall. I come out one day, boom, all 8 have flower heads. So I pulled and harvested them, chopped it up for a small, addition to a salad, and that was the end of that. So that wasn't too much fun. The skunk problem is solved. I don't know if it's because of the efforts that I made or it gave up, but it has not been in now over a week. Happy about that. On the other really good side of things, the strawberries are looking incredible. So I'm really pleased with how these have come on. And these aren't even the strongest beds that I've got, but I've got a boatload of flowers. That's really exciting for me right now because it kind of offsets some of the things that I'm a little less pleased about. And those have been some of my seedling starts. These tomatoes are my San Marzanos. I got 2 beds running down about a foot apart, and they were not looking good in the cell packs. They were for a while, and then all of a sudden they just looked weak. So I wanted to get them out into the garden and get them in contact with some native soil, which I know is a lot healthier than the compost they were growing in. I didn't have this issue in the past, so I'm guessing that the fact that I started them in homemade compost. Again, compost varies from year to year. It's sifted. Everything I've thrown compost-wise on the garden has always helped the plants perform well. And seed starting has always been relatively successful with them. Not as successful as commercially branded stuff that's more formulated, but good enough. This year, not so much for some of these crops, so I've had to deal with that and getting in the garden a little faster than I want to. On that note, the same kind of sifted compost produced these mustards and all the greens that you see running down this row. They were out in the garden faster, so maybe I got them in and they got in touch with the native soil, and that fed them up. But yeah, it's just kind of hit or miss. And in my update video for the March garden tour, I noted that only 6 of the 13 crowns of asparagus popped, and now all 13 are done. They've all taken off. So something was delayed in the 7, and they're all good to go now. And here comes the rain a little bit. This is my one Prime Arc Freedom that I have. I say I have one. I have a second one that I put in off of a sucker from this one. But this one's just flowering so beautifully. Can you imagine all of the berries that we're going to get off this one particular, and this is going to happen before the rest of the plants flower out. So It's nice to have varieties because you can stagger your harvest by up to a week. I'm guessing this is going to throw berries at least a week before any other variety is going to, if not 2 weeks. So yeah, when you're picking your varieties, always pay attention to the estimated time that they actually are going to throw fruit, because you can stagger a bit, and that's kind of nice to get a longer harvest season. This morning I noticed one of my broccolis was snapped at the stem, so that went into my breakfast. And this is a beet bed here, and this kind of suffered the same thing as the tomatoes. They just didn't look good in the cell pack, so I wanted to get them in contact with the native soil. The elderberries, those are only 2-year-old plants from the nursery, so they were probably a year old, 1 gallons, so maybe 3-year-old plants. They're phenomenal. Super easy to grow, super beautiful. Oh, so one thing I did that I thought was kind of fun was, along the same vein of how I created and maintained this kind of created bed space, because this was all a pathway at one point, but I wanted to put a bunch of blackberries in here because it looked like wasted space. I extended the area over here and decided to create a tiny little onion bed because I had some seedlings left over. And yeah, they I mean, had 40 onions in there. Whether or not they all do something is remains to be seen, but it's just kind of a way to take up you know, to use space that just wasn't really doing anything, as you could see. And that's 5 feet by 2 feet, 10 square feet. I also added a bunch of new wood chips to this north edge. And the reason I did that was because I had more annual weed pressure in this area than I was expecting. And it's basically because last year when I got through this area pulling the Bermuda grass out, I had to get to the native soil to do so. I had to work through about 4 inches of decomposed and semi-decomposed wood chip to get there. But it sort of turned everything a bit. Now, not turning as far as like going into your native soil and rototilling 8 inches deep, but scritching that surface did bring some material combined, and annual weed seeds were more readily able to root and pop. And when it's funny when you think about spring growing, your plants pop up, you get really excited about that, and I always forget that, yeah, weeds follow suit with that as well, because the garden was looking really clean up until 3 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden when my plants started growing, the weeds did too. This I'm excited about. This is 29 days after I planted those Pontiac Reds. So that's a, and I counted them out yesterday. I looked them up. Every single one that was chitted out, actually every single potato, they were all chitted, has popped the shoot system. So we're pretty excited for that. My garlic, I'm still scared of how this is going to finish out. If you're watching this and you know about garlic health, can you do me a favor and comment below and tell me if these plants look healthy? I think they do. I'm starting to get the yellowing of the lower leaves, which I expect, but I didn't quite expect it now. I think I was expecting it more in a couple of weeks. I get leaves that kind of bend over a little bit. Again, I'm trying, because my garlic came out of the ground with an issue last year, and that's the same garlic I used to plant this year. I'm trying not to get a little panicky. I've pulled a couple out that didn't look that healthy to see what the condition of the bulb looked like, and obviously it wasn't bulbed out at this point. It looked beautiful, nice and clean and white, no disease, no fungal issues, but I'm still just a little paranoid, that's all. So if anybody out there is watching this and you can alleviate some of my fears and tell me that these plants look pretty good, because I don't see rust on them either, and I don't see any, like I said, I don't see any issue with them. I don't know, a little bit of, tip dying here. I'm just not sure, because I can't remember a year. I've only grown garlic for 4 years now, and I guess I haven't quite observed the health of the plants as much as I should have. This is going to be a lesson for me to learn to pay attention to that and maybe take some more pictures. So yeah, let me know what you think. Please. This is a radish bed, and this again suffered the same fate as my tomatoes and my beets, where in the cell pack they just weren't looking that good. Now the problem with those, when they germinated, I left town for a couple days and I had to keep them under cover as I traveled, and I kind of bottom watered them there in a tray with just a little bit of water so they didn't dry out, but they got really leggy, so I had to bury them relatively deep. I didn't know what it was going to look like. It's been about a week since they've been in the ground, and I still see green. So I'm not gonna worry about that. Again, it was really getting them in contact with native soil that was a lot more nutritious than their compost was, just so they could, you know, get established and start feeding properly. And I think that's gonna play out really well for me. It remains to be seen, but later in the month when we do our March update, or excuse me, our April update, we'll see more on that front. And the last thing I'm going to show you, I guess the last couple of things. Sugar snap peas are looking really strong. Couple gaps here and there, and that might have been a germination, or maybe the skunk nuzzled something and it didn't like being disturbed. But my little carrot bed is doing fantastic now. We've got 3 good solid rows, and I just started thinning this first row here. So you can see we got a few more gaps. I'll be thinning this out over the next few weeks as well. And I eat the thinnings. I rinse them off and I take them in and put them in my salad. So thinnings are food for those of you who do not know. The leaves of carrots are totally edible. Take them out, rinse them off, mince them up nice and fine, toss them in your salad. You're not going to know they're there. They're going to add a little bit of a hint of carroty flavor, a little bit of a herbaceous green flavor. Delicious. No reason to throw them in the compost. It's a bit tedious, so if you didn't want to go through the effort, I can't fault you that, because it is a bit of a process. But for those of you with a little extra time who want to throw this in your salad or in a meal, totally edible. And that's an early update for you in April 9th, and things are happening quickly. I'm really excited for this rain that we've got coming up today. It's going to be about 1.5 inches. I should be able to get some more water capture in my barrels from that. The one thing I'm not looking forward to, however, is today is Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday. Tuesday's overnight into Wednesday morning is supposed to touch freezing, 32 degrees, which doesn't bode well for my tomatoes. I think they're going to be fine. I set the hoops up. I've got some row cover to keep any bit of a frost off of them. Typically, since this field is in open sun, it'll warm up relatively quickly. So I think as long as it doesn't stay frozen at 32 degrees for a couple of hours, any more than a couple hours, the seedlings should be fine. They're nice and close to the ground. They've survived this sort of thing before, because I have planted tomatoes earlier in the past. Not to a best practice, but because maybe I was impatient, and I haven't lost any to the freeze because of that, so I'm hopeful. Plus, when they forecast 32 for this area, it can be anywhere between 31 and 34, I've noticed. So I'm not too worried about that. But again, it's not ideal for the plant. But there's not much I can do about it at this point other than what I'm doing. So that's the update. Appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. And again, if anybody there knows about the garlic and they saw the plant, please let me know what you think. I really want to know if I'm going to be brokenhearted in 6 weeks or not. So I'm counting on anybody who's watching this to tell me what I should expect from that. Or if there's anything I can do in the meantime to fix it, let me know. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.